I got out of the Air Force because I was struggling with a lot. I had my second attempt of trying to take my life. I got arrested for the first time, and I realized that I had to choose myself over my service. It has literally catapulted me into the work that I'm doing. We walk around a lot of times wearing the mask.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter your social economic status, if you are high performing and high achieving, if you're just trying to figure out life in the next step, that so many people suffer in silence. A lot of times people don't want to sit with themselves. We run from ourselves, we run from the pain. 87.7% of entrepreneurs struggle with at least one mental health condition. When you are experiencing burnout, you have nothing left to give. And that's why it's so important to recognize what burnout looks like for you. You need you too. You're deserving of the same love, care, nurturing, everything that you put out into the world. Your body's deserving of that. Your mind is deserving of that. Your soul is deserving of that.
Ambition doesn't need permission. It just needs a seat at the table, and we brought our own. Welcome to the So Ambitious Podcast. Welcome to the So Ambitious Podcast, Candace.
Thank you so much for having me.
I would love to start by, we met at ABFF.
Yes.
Film festival this year. And I just felt like we clicked like this. And when you started telling me just who you are, like what you do, what you accomplish, how you support people, I think just not even like the highest level, but maybe sometimes even at the lowest level, trying to get back up. I want to dive into all of that in our conversation, but I feel like your bio, amazing accolades and titles. But I want to know and share with our audience, like, who were you before the titles and the work that you do?
Who was I before the mother?
Mm-hmm.
Who was I before the Air Force veteran, the licensed psychotherapist, the production therapist, the author? Sometimes when I speak of all of those titles, it blows me away, but then it also grounds me because before any of those titles, I was a girl who dreamed. I was a girl who was wandering, who was trying to find her way, who was trying to self-heal the best way that she knew how to. I was the young girl that was trying to figure it out because a lot of times, even when we get into adulthood, we think that our inner child is no longer there, but she's right there with me. So I always go back to that wonder, that childlike curiosity. And that's honestly how I even got into the field that I am in as a mental health, professional. So I was a girl who wandered, a girl who dreamed.
Okay. I love that. A girl who dreamed, right? I'm right here with you, a girl who dreamed. Is there anything about the journey to like in college or even just into the work that you are doing currently around therapy that has surprised you along that journey?
What surprises me the most is how we walk around a lot of times wearing the mask. I think that is what surprised me the most, no matter where you are in life. It doesn't matter your social economic status, if you are high performing and high achieving, if you're just trying to figure out life in the next step in your career, that so many people suffer in silence and it's no look to it. And I think because of my own personal journey and how I even got into the field, it was because of my curiosity. So my curiosity and my wonder led me to my calling. My curiosity and wonder is what led me to my passion. So I believe that's what has surprised me the most, because when you're battling anything in life, sometimes you feel so lonely and isolated, like I'm the only one. But being in this field, I really have learned and realized that we are more alike than we are not. And so many of us are struggling and just need assistance and need help and need someone to say, hey, I'm in this thing with you.
You are a Air Force veteran.
Yes.
How has that kind of fueled or shaped any of the work that you do right now?
It has literally catapulted me into the work that I'm doing because when I got out of the Air Force, I got out of the Air Force because I was struggling with a lot in the Air Force. I had my second attempt in the Air Force of trying to take my life. I was battling with alcoholism. I got arrested for the first time and set across from a judge, had to go to a drug and alcohol treatment program. And I realized that I had to choose myself over my service to others, to, this nation. I had to choose my own mental health. And I got out. And when I got out and what I thought I tried to do was really get myself together. What I realized is that I just put on the mask. I never really got the help that I needed. I just put on the mask, and I'm a high achiever as well. So I achieved over what it is that I was hiding from. I worked over what it is that I was hiding from. I was being of service to others while I was in pain. And when I went and got my master's, Howard University, HU, Howard University, I wanted to go back into the military to help men and women who were struggling with some of the same things that I was struggling with, and help men and women that struggle with sexual assault. I wanted to go back into the Air Force, and that's what I wanted to use my education in. And God had another plan for me. And I had my third bout with suicidal thoughts. And that's when everything shifted for me personally and professionally.
And then once you left the military, tell me about kind of like your career kind of trajectory, the twists and turns that have kind of led you to the work that you do right now, and like how you've prioritized that.
Yes. So I was working for the National Guard Bureau. I was a civilian. I realized that wearing a uniform wasn't for me, but I still wanted to be a part of the military in some capacity. So I became, a civilian, a personnel, still working in the military. And I realized how much it impacted my mental health. I would wake up every morning and just become so overwhelmed. I was burnt out. I was exhausted. And I realized that there's more to life than what it is that I'm doing. I just knew that there was something else. Going to work every single day, feeling depleted. Around that time when I left the military, professionally working for the National Guard Bureau, but personally, I was having those thoughts of feeling that life is not worth living. By this time, Felicia, I was a mother of 2 boys, okay? Working, excelling, doing all of the things well on paper, but struggling personally. In 2019, December 2019, that is when I had those thoughts enter into my mind again, that life isn't worth living. Life isn't worth living. On paper, I was doing all of the things, had a great career. My children was thriving, but there was this emptiness inside. And I realized in that moment that I didn't want the pain to be passed down to my children. I didn't want to take my life. I just wanted the pain to stop. And once I made the decision to heal personally, that's when everything shifted for me occupationally. Once I started healing Candace, once I started getting the help that I needed, I realized and literally walked into my purpose, walked into my calling. And I live by this quote, Dr. Maya Angelou. She says, as soon as healing takes place, you go out and you heal somebody else. And I realized that all that I've gone through, it wasn't just for me. It was for those that I'm going to be of service to. And I already had the education. God said, go out and get your license. And I got my license and became a psychotherapist. And here I am 5 years later. I can't even accept any more clients right now. That's a blessing. So doing that, it really allowed me to see that life is worth living, but there's more. And going through that personal journey led me down this path, but I had to take a lot of risk. I had never taken any business classes. I didn't go to school to be an entrepreneur, but I had to take that risk. And once I chose myself and chose life, I literally chose that career path. It was just waiting for me.
When we met and you start just sharing the work that you do, it was like we're interviewing quite a few people, but like that was the most important conversation that I wanted to have. Because we invest in entrepreneurs, we're supporting diverse entrepreneurs in a number of capacities, and wellness, mental health, holistic fortitude are all the things that I personally had to navigate, like starting businesses, closing businesses. I think all the ancillary things associated with that, and not necessarily having like the support or the vocabulary to even wrap around what I needed or a way of understanding. And then becoming the CEO of Black Ambition over the past 4 years, the first year I was just like, I want to make sure that we kind of like ground like mental health support for these entrepreneurs, because I was like, I don't know how you can invest in diverse entrepreneurs, also expect a return, right? Because at the end of the day, we're investors. If we are not making sure that like we're prioritizing the individual and like they are whole first, and then there's mentorship and connections and resources and programming and all of that, right? And so I feel like organizations, investors, institutions, we get to a point where we become very irresponsible if we aren't prioritizing that and the people that we are propping up and ultimately care about, right? And so like there's been that. And then Pharrell, and kind of running this rocket ship for him for the past few years, he's a person of faith, right? And he candidly talks about that and like really been wanting to intentionally bring those two worlds together. And so like that has been circulating for the past few years of not only how do you get it right, but how do you be like intentional with it? But I think the journey for entrepreneurs, myself personally, but like the hundreds of entrepreneurs, thousands of entrepreneurs we support, you said something that just kind of clicked around why this conversation is so important, and also wanting to handle it with like a container of care.
Yes.
Because it is a sensitive topic, right? Is you said that there was like knowing how to kind of listen to myself in order to even make the decision to go and become a therapist. But it also sounds like listening to yourself, maybe when the voice that was responding back to you wasn't necessarily the most positive voice. How have you, or what do you recommend? How do you reconcile knowing when you need help and knowing when the moment is time to kind of do something that serves people, although you may need help as well?
Yeah, it's a homecoming. It's really heightening your self-awareness and being able to sit with yourself. A lot of times people don't want to sit with themselves. We run from ourselves. We run from the pain. We run from the mess. And the National Alliance on Mental Illness, NAMI, they say 1 in 5 adults have a mental health condition. And I was just studying, the Founders Report says that 87.7% of entrepreneurs struggle with at least one mental health condition. And the top 5, loneliness, social isolation, fear of failure, anxiety, depression, and then also, I'm just going to name several others, imposter syndrome, imposter syndrome and isolation. So when you think about all of these different things that people wrestle with, it's first being able to come home to self and say, who am I outside of this business? Who am I as a woman? Who am I as a man? What is it that I enjoy? What fuels me? That's something that I had to sit down and ask myself because I didn't know the answer to it. Because my identity became me mothering. My identity became what I was doing for the federal government. My identity became, what does my community need? What does everyone else need? And it's hard for us to do, but it's shifting the hierarchy and placing ourselves at the top of that list because society would deem that as selfish. But it's really self-preservation. So it's having a mentality shift because your thoughts impact your feelings and emotions, and then it shows up behaviorally. So it's really asking the question, what do I think about myself outside of what it is that I do? Because we bring who we are into any space and into any room, but it starts with honesty, vulnerability, transparency, self-compassion. And I had to shift my mindset from not an either or, but a both and. I can be both amazing dope at what I do, and still say, I need help. Still say, hey, I'm struggling in this area. But I first had to deal with the guilt and whatever shame, whatever residue was there. So that's why 87.7%, that is a high number.
Yeah.
I'm in that 87.7. But thinking about that is having the self-awareness to say, what is it that I need today? And delegating. This morning, I had to wake up and say, my body needs to rest. Though my mind said something else. What does your body need today? And then you delegate. Who on my team can I delegate this to? Can I push this to tomorrow? Because we need ourselves too. I tell my clients, I tell business owners, you need you too. You need you. Your family needs you. Your community needs you. And yes, that business needs you to operate. But how do you create a life of success? And success is rest.
What you shared about like when you woke up this morning, you said I needed rest, right? We're here in Martha's Vineyard.
Yes.
A beautiful space that has a long legacy in history for Black people. But Black people also usually describe this as their happy place, right?
Yeah, someone just texted me that this morning. It was like, you're in Martha Vineyards? That's my happy place. Literally.
Like, and you see like a interesting kind of joy on people's face when
it radiates.
It radiates, right? And I think it's one thing, because it's interesting, because I've had conversations with people like, some of my friends are like, oh, you're going to that bougie place. I'm like, you don't understand it till you get here. You'll see that, right? You've seen all the think pieces on TikTok. I was like, not until you get here do you get to completely understand a different side of joy, wealth, of course, right? But a different side of freedom, joy, and liberation that I think you can divorce from like the bouginess of what people feel. Like there's a whole other way that we get to exist and live here. And I've seen that. My family has seen that, right? Our entrepreneurs have seen it. That's why we bring them here every year. But I was bringing that up because when you said this morning you woke up, you need to rest. When I woke up this morning and my team was going to kill me because we had like a time. When I woke up this morning, I was just like, I'm exhausted. And the only way that I can honor starting the day the right way and bringing the right energy into the room is going to the polar bears this morning. Go get by the beach in the water. That's my safe space. But like having that feeling in my body, but then the immediate reaction is like, that means that there's things to reschedule, people to reschedule, times to put back, and like the guilt associated with that. But then also saying, but the only way to serve everything else the rest of the day is I have to listen to my body. My body said to go do that.
And we all adjusted. We adjusted. People will adjust to your boundaries. You said rest, joy, and liberation. As entrepreneurs, we have to ask ourselves, how do we define success? I had to change how I saw business to say that is what success looks like for me. Because when I took a risk, and I'm very transparent, very vulnerable, so I'm gonna be vulnerable with you. When I was working for the federal government, I was making over 80K a year. It was just me and my 2 boys. I was doing well. I was doing well. And I took the jump into becoming a full-time entrepreneur. I didn't know a thing about self-employment tax. I didn't know a thing about quarterly tax, anything when it comes to business license. I just had to figure it out as I go. When I made the risk and I jumped head first, I could have allowed, and some people do, I preface this to say some people still work their 9 to 5 to fund their dream. But I knew that my mental health was so important that I couldn't do that. So I took the risk, and my income decreased by 60%. These last 4 years, by 60%. But I was at a workshop one day, and an entrepreneur, I shared that story, and it stuck to me and with me. He said, Candace, what's 80K to $1 million? What's a little bit of discomfort to get you where you ultimately deserve to be? So because I still had the government mentality, I jumped in and I was just seeing clients after clients doing all of the things, and I burnt out immediately. until I prioritized rest, joy, and liberation. I said, wait a minute, I'm not working for anyone anymore.
Yeah.
I get to control my calendar. I get to wake up in the morning and say, no, I want to walk my kids to the bus stop. I want to be here at 2 p.m. I want to travel I was like, wait a minute. I was still imprisoned in my mind. So I had to shift it and say, no, I need rest. Yeah. I need joy. I need liberation. And I had to work through the shame and the guilt to get there. And that's what success is to me. Yeah. So you have to ask yourself, what is success to you?
You mentioned burnout. Like, I need us to unpack what burnout is and what it is not. Yeah. And I'm asking that question because I have 2 kids. And through my entrepreneurial journey, I birthed 2 kids and businesses. And I felt like I didn't fully understand burnout until I experienced postpartum depression. And for like me, that is my understanding of what both of those things are, because to me, those things showed up in my body the same way. But it also helped me realize what burnout is not, and it's something else. I'm just tired. Yes. I'm exhausted. I need this type of help or this type of help, or I just need reprieve. So tell us, what is burnout and how do we know when it's not burnout and it's something else?
Burnout is depletion. Burnout is depletion. You spoke of exhaustion, right? And tiredness. We can be exhausted and tired, and we may have enough in our cup to keep going that we are not operating off of lack. But when you are burnt out, you can feel it in your body. Your mood changes. So you may experience mood swings, insomnia, hypersomnia. You may be in an hyper-aroused space. A hyper-aroused space. Hyper-aroused means you become so emotionally distressed you can't even think. Or hyper-aroused, you can be so exhausted to where you become lethargic. You become numb. You just shut down. So one of the best ways that I share the difference is think about this right here, this cup. And I have a strategy when it comes to the cup and saucer concept. When you are experiencing exhaustion or tiredness, again, this cup may be half full. But when you are experiencing burnout, you have nothing left to give. And that's why it's so important to recognize what burnout looks like for you, because we have different capacities. Right. We have different bandwidths. So being able to be proactive is you being able to sit down with yourself and start to ask yourself those questions to say, what is my capacity? What is my bandwidth? When do I need to say no?
How do you know when to actually sit with yourself to ask questions? And then what do you do with the answer if you're not ready to reconcile what to do with the answer that you get?
Yeah. Not waiting until you're in crisis. Being able to take off the cape. That's one of the things that is so hard for us to do, is take that cape off, because we think that we're super men and super women. And that's a syndrome within itself, that I have to be and do everything. And we don't. So being able to take that cape off and being able to sit with yourself, that's the first step. And that's really the hardest, which is identification and acknowledgement. And then being able to be okay with not being okay. Being able to say, I need help, whether that's professional help in sitting down with a licensed mental health professional, finding your community, safe people, to be able to even put language on it. It's hard to put language on things, and the body keeps score. So because you're housing all of this information in, and think about our bodies are a temple. Temples are a house. So if I used to watch this show called Hoarders. I don't know if you like, I used to watch this show called Hoarders. And what I realized is that every person on that show has some type of deficit, whether it was psychological, emotional, spiritual, physical, because of their environment, because they were housing things. So our bodies keep score. So being able to put language on what it is that you're feeling, you're releasing it from your body. You're letting your body know, I hear you. You're letting your mind know, I hear you. I see you. So putting language on that. And again, not waiting until you're in crisis, not waiting until all you see is red. You can start right now, even if you wake up and you just feel like everything is going well in your life, everything is going well in your business. It's being proactive and not reactive. So when you ask the question when to start, you could start now no matter where you are in your journey. Sit down, open up a notebook, and ask yourself, what is it that I need? If someone sat down across from me, said, Felicia, what do you need? Not what your children need, not what your husband needs, not what your community needs. What do you need? And being honest with that.
Yeah. Candace, you said something about like taking the cape off, right? Which I think is like a colloquialism that we say all the time and maybe not fully understand what that means. And for me, hearing it and then like for hearing our entrepreneurs say it all the time, to me, it feels like it requires a level of like surrendering and vulnerability. What does that mean? And what do they do like in the process of surrendering to what you just mentioned?
You have to be in a space of wanting to embrace intimacy along with that vulnerability. And intimacy, when you break that word down, is intimacy. Intimacy. Do you really want to see yourself? Do you really want to see your team? Because when you think about mental health, it really does impact everything. It impacts morale externally, but you also have an internal compass. And if you are a high performer, high achieving individual, it's easy to place surrendering and intimacy and vulnerability to the left. Because your identity is rooted in your service. But realizing that you have to serve self too, because if you're depleted and the body will shut down, the mind will shut down, who's going to operate? Who's going to execute? Who's going to produce? So that vulnerability piece, that intimacy piece, that surrendering piece is being able to take the cape off, being able to wrap yourself around it with it, being able to rest, and being able to be honest. A lot of times we don't want to embrace the honesty of where we're at because of where we're at, because of our titles. But it goes back to that initial question of who are you? Being able to ask yourself that question. And if you struggle with the response, that lets you know that there's some work that needs to be done.
When we chatted at ABFF, you talked about the work that you do in the film industry.
Yes.
And when you said that, I was just like, and when you were breaking it down, I was just like, there's so many through lines to entrepreneurs as well, right? They are high performers. Many of them are in the public eye, either for the very first time or just big stages, massive conversation. There's a lot of responsibility that's associated with it. We are in a time of like everything is on Instagram, everything's on Twitter. And a moment of shine can easily turn into a moment where it takes you to a very dark place. Talk to me a little bit about like what you have seen as the through line between the work that you do in the film industry and then also entrepreneurs.
You said something there as it pertains to that spotlight. That spotlight follows into the workplace too. As the head of the company, people are always watching you. Feeling as though you always have to be on is something that I see. That I can't have an off day. I cannot not be okay. I always have to be on. So by you always having to be on, you're really always performing. Everything that you do is performative. We naturally have 60,000 thoughts a day, just on a chill regular day. Think about the mind of someone in these high-stressed environments, deadlines. You have obligations. You have decision-making that you have to execute. And sometimes just like this, that's a lot of pressure. So one of the things that I do is I help actors de-roll. I help entrepreneurs de-roll because the mind, it's one of the most powerful parts of our being, but it's also the most fragile.
What do you mean by helping them de-roll?
Helping them de-roll is being able to, perfect example, Michael B. Jordan. He played Killmonger in Black Panther. After that role, he had to seek therapy because he's a method actor. So method actors, they use their lived experiences to tap into their character's psyche, their heart, their soul. He literally became Killmonger. That when the director said cut, he was still Killmonger psychologically. And he mentioned how his family and friends was like, you're a little cold, you're a little distant. So helping the actor to de-roll is being able to say, when that director says cut, you come back to yourself. So helping them, it's a container jar. Whatever you need to perform well for this role, take it out of that jar. Whatever pain, whatever trauma that you have healed from, whatever experiences, and then being able to put it back. Sometimes people don't know how to put it back. They take work home with them.
So is that the same like container and jar that they also use to get into the role? Or is it a completely different process to get in it as opposed to getting out of it?
It depends. Every person has their own techniques and differences, but most people do have a toolkit. They have a toolbox that they go into and take those experiences from, but it can be, harmful to the psyche if you're not able to close it, if you're not able to center yourself and not able to come back to self. And that's the through line here, because many people lack occupational self-care. Because again, you bring who you are into any space. So if you are not well, how can you perform and execute and show up well? You can until you have nothing else in your cup.
So then what does that mean for entrepreneurs, right? Because any of the business books that you read, Pitch Anything is one of those books where it's just like, you got to get mentally into the space to be able to pitch. It has a lot of NLP associated with it, right? And so how we use language in order to influence people to make decisions, whether good or bad, right? The intention is what separates the two. I think any of the business classes, the business videos, all our friends with the podcast right now, like they all have different conversations, resources around what they should be doing to assume a different personality, to raise money, to dominate, to have bravado, to be bigger than yourself, to find even different sources of truth around what is real or who you need to be in order to raise money, right? And I think it's a lot to unpack.
That is
based
a lot
off of what
to
you're
unpack.
saying.
Yeah. Because you just said something, who you have to be. So then the question is, are you becoming someone else to get a result? Or are you showing up as your authentic self that you don't have to perform?
I have seen success when I took off everything and was just like, you gonna take me or leave me, right? I've been able to raise money as a result of that, but it took me a long time to say, I don't have to take the cape off, right? Or I can put the oxygen mask on and do what I need. But like mentally, I think there's so many things that we're taught or not taught, or that we have to learn in the process of finally getting to a sense of liberation of like, this deal gonna happen or not, but like, I am my source of truth moving into this.
When did you get there? When you talk about liberation and say, because that just hit me when you said you're either going to take me or you're not. And I think especially as business owners, because I know I did it when I first, jumped into this self-entrepreneur space. I thought I had to do business a certain way, especially even as a therapist, because people look at me, you don't look like a therapist, you don't look like, and I'm like, what's the look? So it's just like society has, these definitions of what different things look like. And then I said, no, like I'm gonna be who I am. And if I'm for you, I'm not, but it was a journey. So that liberation piece you spoke of.
I feel like, I don't know if there's one specific moment, but I feel like there have been moments, right? I think for me, cutting my hair was the thing that like, we need to have that conversation, right? But the thing that like my dad did not approve of, but it was the most liberating thing for me. And that was a step in me saying, this is who I am, take it or leave it, right? I think when you enter the business space and start networking at events and constantly being in spaces that feel completely disjointed to my body. I'm like, I'm a functioning introvert. I don't even know if that's a real term. But my cup starts here, and once it's depleted, I have to leave.
Your social battery.
My social battery. But it took me a long time to realize that was what was happening in my body. And then it took me even a longer time, or more time than it should, to just say, well, there's something not necessarily wrong with me and my business. It's the events that I'm going to that actually don't align with me. And like that helped me reconcile and then start making different decisions. It was raising money for the very first time and being in a very toxic relationship with our investors that said things to us that made me question who I am, but realizing like they were wrong, we were not. It was losing money for the very first time significantly that gives you a sense of freedom when you hit rock bottom, because it's just like, I can either get comfortable here or I can realize it's only upward from here.
Yes.
But I think that freedom of, I think one, being responsible and trying to be a good steward of money, but then also building a business and it doesn't go the way that you essentially want it to. But when you hit rock bottom, I think it reframes everything around you about what's possible. Because it allowed me to get creative in ways that I never thought about it. It helped me also realize that it actually wasn't as bad as I thought it was. Like the process. Yeah. And then now I have all the tools to go out and do the next thing, not tethered to the identity or the responsibility or the guilt of anything that happened before. I feel like it was those things. And then I've personally experienced burnout twice. Like I don't wish it on my worst enemy. And it kind of seeped into the fabric of who I was without me realizing it. But like I was quick-tempered. I didn't love my business anymore. I hated my business. And that these were all things that when I look at it was
at the root of the burnout, because burnout is at the tip of the iceberg. Everything that you're calling out now, that is what it was connected to at the root. And once you deal with those things at the root, you'll see burnout decrease. Burnout is the response of something.
We, a few years ago, brought therapists into Black Ambitions programming, a really amazing team with Evoke, at a time where we only offered it to the entrepreneurs that we invested in, that actually got capital from us, right? So 35 entrepreneurs. This past year, we were able to expand it to all our semifinalists. So close to 200 entrepreneurs get that level of support. And some of the conversations that have been shared have been life-altering for them. But then at the same time, it's like an openness. But a lot of the conversation that I see bubble up is around loneliness and entrepreneurship. But then I think also at the same time, we build community, and community is this conversation that's thrown around all the time. And so what is your advice between understanding and recognizing what loneliness is, and how do you find a source of community?
Yeah, so the CDC reports that 1 in 4 adults experience loneliness, specifically a lack of social and emotional support. As a business owner, as an entrepreneur, it can be very lonely. Who do you talk to when your sales are declining? Who are you talking to when your team shifts abruptly? When your products aren't selling? Because it matters. Because proximity can shift your drive and your motivation instantly. And what I mean by proximity, everyone can't have access to you. Because when things happen, as a business owner, because you're going to have trials and tribulations, right? Who are the voices that you are allowing in? Girl, no, just forget that little business and go back to work and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, right? That can really cause depression to come through. That can cause anxiety, comparison, to where you experience a lot of things psychologically that you even mentioned as it pertains to your motivation shifting when it comes to your business. I don't love this anymore. And it's not that for some people, they don't love it anymore. They're trying to still identify the spark. Where is the spark in this? Finding like-minded community is so important. Community that's rooted in safety, accountability, and trust. Because people do throw that word community out, but is it a safe community? Is it a trusted community? Can you be vulnerable? You can enter into a community, but that self-work that we were talking about, surrendering to self, so that when you're in community, this is what I'm struggling with. Because when you put language on it, the person to the left may have the solution to your problem. That's why the individual and the collective work is so important. But when you think about community, it helps you to know that you're not alone in this. That someone else experienced burnout. Someone else experienced postpartum while trying to build a business. Someone else is trying to figure out, how do I raise these kids while showing up for my business simultaneously? And someone has that solution. But it takes you showing up, taking that cape off, wrapping yourself around with it as comfort, and being able to say, I do need support. I do need to be in community, because that is one of the mental health conditions that many people wrestle with, is loneliness. Because who else is experiencing this? Because again, we live in a social media world. We live in a technology-driven world. So a lot of people are just showing you the highlights. They're not showing you the true story behind where they are or what they're struggling with.
How do entrepreneurs know when to seek therapy and professional help? I feel like it's a thing that has been more normalized than it has been in the past.
Yes.
I think talking to my mom or elders, it's still a little
There's a stigma still associated with it.
So how do they know? Because when I made the decision to leave the organization that I had founded with my husband, I knew it in my body before I could say it. The fear that I had around making a transition, a leap, starting a new thing, or not starting anything at all was rooted in the pushback that I was going to get in making the decision. So I prolonged
You're
making
all in
the
my
decision.
business right now too.
But the thing that saved me was actually going to therapy to help me make, and I wasn't even thinking about a personal decision. I felt like life was relatively okay. I needed to go to therapy to make a business decision and to have the vocabulary when people push back on me about, no, you need to stay with this organization longer. You just raised significant money. Why would you leave? I did not have the vocabulary to handle the pushback on a decision that I know I need to make. But it was a process for me, right? And so how do people know when to seek therapy? And are there any other tools in helping them just kind of get to that process and through that process?
Go now. Go now. Don't wait until you're in crisis to seek help. Being able to be in therapy, it's a very proactive space. It's a space to where if a situation arises, you already have tools in your toolbox. A lot of the clients that I work with that are either in the entertainment industry, specifically television and film, or within the community, 75% of my clients are dealing with workplace conflicts, interpersonal conflicts. And then they're bringing that home, and that anger, that irritation, that annoyance, that frustration, it's being displaced onto their families. It's being displaced onto other projects. So when it comes to seeking that help, that support, you're getting the language that you need, the communication strategies of how do I address this, being able to work through in real time what may come up in your body. So when you go to therapy, you have to be able to be vulnerable and be honest. And it's a collaborative process. I tell my clients, you're the expert in your life. I am taking this journey with you, alongside you, but you're the expert in your life. So it's really much so a proactive tool. And there are so many great therapists, especially within the Black and Brown community. We represent only 4%, still a small pool. But when you have that support, that non-judgmental support, that care and compassion. You're caring for self, but you're also nurturing your babies, which are your businesses. And your businesses, your babies, they deserve care. They deserve attention. They deserve nurturing. And how you get those tools to address that, that shifts everything, because now you're making healthier decisions. Because you're asking yourself the questions: what is it that I need? And what do I need to deal with so that I can address this conflict, so I can address this decision?
Yeah. Do you feel like entrepreneurs, high performers, people in the spotlight as well, only seek therapy for when they feel like they're in crisis? Like, what is the mechanism for seeking it when you feel fine? And maybe things are you are in a sense of, or in a season of flow.
Yeah.
What is that part of the spectrum of therapy or professional support look like?
Yeah, it's maintenance. We still show up for our appointments when it comes to our physical health. We don't wait until we're sick. We have preventative care. It's the same. Not all of the clients that I work with are in crisis. Some of them are just trying to figure out, what does joy look like? I work so hard. I need pleasure. I need leisure. I need fun. I tell people all the time, your fun doesn't cut off at 18. You have to be able to give yourself permission, saying, I have the right for joy. I have the right to travel, to have fun. It's being able to identify that. But it's also being able to say, based upon where I am in life right now, what is it that I'm seeking? Is it purpose? Is it fulfillment? Is it that joy? Is it that liberation? Everything does seem to be going right in my life right now, but I still want to continue learning myself. Just because things are going well in our lives doesn't give us the permission to stop learning ourselves. Who you are at 20 isn't who you're going to be at 30, and who you are at 30 isn't who you're going to be at 40, 50, 60, and so forth. Who am I today? What is it that I need today? And not wait until there's nothing in my cup to now figure this out. Let me be proactive. Let me participate.
We had Liz Thompson on the show. Phenomenal human.
Yes.
Investor, highly respected investor. Her husband was the CEO of McDonald's at one point. And I was having a conversation with her about the first times of navigating proximity to wealth and power. And like the different stages in which that begins to show up in your life. You reconcile that, you celebrate that, or imposter syndrome starts to, and then you get to a point where you are the wealth and power, right? And people are trying to seek proximity to you. Any advice for entrepreneurs that are trying to reconcile with imposter syndrome? And I don't even know if that is like a clinical term. I know Wikipedia describes it as like a psychological phenomenon that mostly high-performing women feel like they can't internalize their success. And from my experience, having two male business partners, like imposter syndrome shows up for them too.
Yes.
It shows up differently.
Yeah.
But can you talk a little bit about imposter syndrome and then proximity to wealth and power? Because I imagine some of the like celebrities and actors and people in the spotlight that you've shown up, maybe you've seen that and not seen that. But I feel like there is there to kind of reconcile and figure out about like how people navigate those things in moments of ascension for them as business owners.
Yeah. It goes back to what it is that you think about yourself. A lot of times when you deal with imposter syndrome, there's some core belief. I'm not deserving of this. I haven't worked hard enough to achieve the level of success. Comparison, that robs you of your joy quickly. So it's really looking at your core beliefs and asking yourself, what is it that I'm really thinking about myself? And then I ask people, is it true?
Yeah.
You feel as though you're not deserving of this success. You feel as though you haven't worked hard enough. Who told you that?
Yeah.
Who told you that? And what is it within you that causes you to come into agreement with that. And let's check the evidence.
Yeah.
Let's check your track record. Because a lot of times it's easy for other people to speak well of you. But then when you have to grab the microphone and speak well of yourself, it's but your track record, your work ethic, your courageous spirit, your bravery, the fact that you sat down and wrote out this business plan, the fact that you sought mentors, the fact that you entered into this competition, the fact that you took the leap, you took the risk. There's something within you that said yes, but now that your yes got you to this greatness, this power, now something within you is saying no. What's saying no, and why are you coming into agreement with it? So I always tell people your feelings, your thoughts are valid, but is it your truth? Put your thoughts on trial and check the evidence. So then I will pull up in front of them the evidence. So with those actors, I'll pull up their accolades and I'll pull up the evidence. And I said, who told you you wasn't deserving of this role? Who told you you wasn't deserving of being this director, this producer? Who told you you wasn't deserving? And when you start to ask questions, you'll be amazed at how quickly the body, the mind responds.
Is that a daily process that you are doing with them? And why is it? Because you feel like it's a light switch. Like, all right, you just need to embody it once and go out there and get it, and your life is forever changed. But what I'm hearing from you, it's an ongoing process in which you're having to kind of constantly like, why is that an ongoing process as opposed to you should just go on and embody that every day moving forward?
We're human. We're human. And I think for some, once it becomes a daily practice, you instantly affirm yourself before society can tell you otherwise. What is it that you're thinking about yourself when you wake up in the morning? I'm deserving of being in this room. I'm deserving of this opportunity. I'm deserving of pitching my company. I'm deserving of this. It's something that is a daily practice. And then before you know it, it's something that is within your skin. It's something that's within the fabric of your clothes that you really start to become it because you started doing the reconstructing psychologically of your psyche into coming into agreement with that and believing that. But it's a daily practice and it's a daily choice. And sometimes some people have to come back and seek the counseling, seek the professional help that they need, because the imposter syndrome is at the tip of the iceberg. It can be something that happened in your childhood that you never dealt with, that you masked, that you allowed your accolades and you allowed that high-performing nature in you to overwork. And some of us are addicted to work. It's a self-defeating behavior. You've become addicted to work. You've become addicted to success, to achievement. But what happens when that spotlight turns out? Who are you when it turns off? So it's being able to really hone in on that practice and allow that to be in that toolkit that I was talking about. So when imposter syndrome comes up, you already have the tools that you need to say, wait, this isn't true. An experience is telling me that this is true. A person is telling me that this is true. This director that directed me 10 years ago, that's not even working anymore, he's still in my head. But I've done all of this great work since this one film. And I'm still coming into agreement with this thought. So it's being able to debunk it.
And how much of that is external reinforcement as opposed to internal reinforcement? And I'm asking that because I remember watching the documentary with Serena Williams and Venus Williams and their dad. That like, I brainwashed my kids into being successful because the world was going to tell them that they weren't. Or I remember, I feel like I'm dating myself, when we had like CD players in the car. And when I didn't have the belief in myself to run my company or to push against my investors, I would put on Lisa Nichols' CD in the car in an hour drive from Delray Beach to Miami to where our store was. And I was like, I got to borrow somebody else's belief in me until it became my own. And it was just her words. every single day in order to kind of squash like all the negative self-talk and disbelief that I was hearing and I was embodying that I needed to figure out a way to release. I didn't have the mentors or anything at that time. But I'm wondering how much of like an external influence plays a role before it becomes the thing that you embody. I feel like there's a process right before that. And I'm wondering externally how much of that it is.
You said something earlier about alignment. And when someone speaks life into you, allowing that to become a core memory. And when someone speaks doubt into you, quickly, immediately say that doesn't belong to me. Because you're going to need that. Just like you just shared. There are some times that we don't even feel deserving because, again, we're human. When that imposter syndrome comes up, it may not be your tool that you're pulling from your toolbox. It could be a borrowed tool. You borrowed someone else's belief and you said, I'm going to use this today. It's still a tool. It's still there. You still remember what she said to you, how that impacted you, how that made you feel, what it made you feel like you can accomplish. Let me borrow this for today. And allowing yourself to say, what is it that I need each day? That helps you to get to the next day. It helps you to get to the next task. So external reinforcement is very healthy. It's very needed. You just have to be selective.
What does that look like as an entrepreneur that's raising money or that is looking for strategic partnerships? And you got the fortitude for the first no, the second no, the third no.
Rejection.
But when it becomes the 10th no, or I've seen entrepreneurs that are raising money, they have spreadsheets and they have 100 no's. But then you also hear the stories from entrepreneurs. It's just like, it was the 101 no that became the yes.
The yes.
But like no one unpacks what it means to embody 100 people telling you no to your dream. That's a lot.
That's a lot. And it's a lot of weight on anyone. I always go back to purpose. What's your why? Why did you launch this business? Why are you doing it? The days that I feel tired, not burnt out, tired and exhausted, I have to remind myself of why I got into this work, the lives that I want to impact, the lives that I want to change. Because if I can impact one life, I know I can impact a nation. I have to go back to my why on the days where things aren't looking as pretty, where the production companies aren't calling as frequently, where people are vacationing, right? Going back to the why to keep me showing up. Rejection is something that we all have or will experience. It's being able to not allow that rejection, those 100 no's, to define you. And that doesn't mean don't feel. That's one of the things I tell people about therapy. Therapy isn't a practice to shield you of your humanity. You're gonna have feelings. You're gonna have thoughts. Some nights you may have to cry yourself to sleep, but then allowing that cape that you have to wipe those tears to say, I'm gonna try again the next day. That's where the motivation, that's where the perseverance, that's where the determination comes from. But all those people that experienced those 100 no's and then they got to the yes, they have some scars and bruises and wounds. They have some stories to tell. But one of the things that they kept doing was they kept going. And giving yourself permission to pause and break. That's something that many of us don't want to do. I work with a lot of actors that, especially when the strike was happening, depression, anxiety, substance abuse, it increased significantly because I still have mouths to feed. I still have to keep a roof over my head. What do I do? What gives you joy? Acting. What gives you joy? Creating. What gives you joy? Making this product. What can I do to give myself that joy when the pathway that I know, that goes back to the pivot, that I know isn't available to me right now? What do I have control over right now? What don't I have control over right now? Do I need to rest? Do I need to break? All of this is different forms of rejection.
Yeah.
Being able to take control of it, to say, this isn't going to allow my situation, my business to fail.
Yeah.
And then also being okay to learn lessons, because that's how I look at failure. It's lessons.
Is it safe and healthy to tether your why to accolades and tangible things? And I'll give you an example of what I mean. I want to say it was the founder of Boondocks on something. I think at like 30, he had achieved all the things and he did not know what to ask for, if I'm remembering the conversation correctly, right? Or Ava DuVernay has this talk that she did at South by Southwest where she talked about pay attention to the intention or the intention to the intention, or the intention to the attention. It was something like that. And she talked about like releasing herself from this film needed to win all of these awards and just focusing on just serving the project.
Impact.
Yeah, but like I'm trying to figure out, like, when we think about our why, like, because then when you get the thing, it's a new goal that you need to set, right? And it becomes like a rat race.
You keep raising the bar.
You keep raising the bar, and so like, are those the right things to tether it, or is it like the smile on my kid's face? And making sure that there's always a smile on their face is something that keeps me tethered to the dream in a way that doesn't feel like it has to be this next accomplishment and then it has to be this next thing. I just want to see a smile. You know, there's financial goals and things like that, but those things can kind of become fleeting. So I'm wondering if you can parse between the two, or do we not do that?
Yes. What is the psychological and emotional pillars of your success? Meaning, it's not something that is tangible. You spoke about joy, liberation, right? Rest. If those three things are met, and I get all of the accolades, I get all of the awards, but if I don't have these three pillars, is it going to create an emptiness within you? Being able to say, what does the soul of my company, what does the soul of my success need? Because there's going to come a point when you may not receive all of those accolades. There's going to come a point where there's going to be a season of stillness. We all have or are going to experience it. What do you do in those moments, in those seasons? You lean on your pillars. So many people do find joy in those accolades. And I've worked with people who do, and they realize that when those accolades are not there, who am I? Because this is how I identified my identity, my joy, and my success. But these are the areas that you have control over, even when your seasons look bleak.
The question that I keep hearing you say is for people to answer the question, who am I? And my
keep going back to that
as a source and as a compass. So I want to turn a similar question over to you. Like, who is Candace uninterrupted? Nothing stood in the way of you achieving success. If the light was never yellow, it was never red, it was only green. Based off of the dynamic work that you do in our world, in the media space, but for entrepreneurs and just individuals, if nothing stood in the way of you achieving success, like, what would that look like?
What would that look like for me? That is such a powerful question, especially with where we are, today. That looks like uninterrupted joy. Because that is what I embody. That is who I have worked so hard to not only become and embody that joy, but live it out. No matter the season. That's not easy to do. Because I've learned there's a difference between happiness and joy. Happiness is based upon what's happening around me, what's going on. Things are looking amazing right now. That can make me feel a sense of happiness. But joy is something that no one can take from me. That even when you try to take things from me or any, because that's who I am as a woman. But I had to do the work to really come home to myself, to ask myself some questions and say, before I'm anything, I'm a daughter. I'm loved by God. I'm cherished by God. I'm honored by God. I'm adorned by God. That's who I am first. And because of that, I envelop this sense of joy that just radiates off of me, even when I'm not my best. And I think that is something that I've intentionally created because of my own pillars of joy and peace, and of that shared one that we have, which is liberation. So above all of, the things and the titles and the success and where I am today, I'm anchored in joy. I'm a woman. I'm a woman who's anchored in joy.
Oof, I love that. A woman anchored in joy.
I'm a woman who's anchored in joy.
Candace, we are, again, here at Martha's Vineyard, filming the podcast, So Ambitious. Are there any last things that you want to share with our entrepreneurs around so many different topics that we've covered, right? And so the ups and downs, surviving and getting to a point of thriving, care, responsibility, unpacking trauma, but getting on a pathway to joy. But then also entrepreneurs that they have the weight on their shoulders, trying to take off the cape, and still be so ambitious, right? In this moment, is there anything else that you think they would need in their toolkit in order to implement everything that you shared, are things that they should be thinking about and prioritizing, or in some instances, like you said, putting down?
You need you too. You need you too. You're deserving of the same love, care, nurturing, the same drive, everything that you put into your businesses, everything that you put out into the world. Your body's deserving of that. Your mind is deserving of that. Your soul is deserving of that. Knowing that it's okay to rest and rest radically. Rest daily, asking yourself every day, what is it that I need? And it's not always, when people think about rest, they typically think about like napping. And napping, I'm a napper. Napping is so beneficial. But rest could be a phone call with someone that you just haven't spoken to in a while. Rest can mean, I need a mental health day. I need to unplug. Rest could be, I need to just go sit by the water. Rest can mean, I just need to cry. I just need to feel. I just need to emote today. Rest can be, I just need to plan. I just need to go to a coffee shop. And giving yourself permission, knowing that you have the right to change your mind. You have the right to say no. You have the right to say this no longer serves me. You have the right to pivot. You have the right to grow. You have the right to be healthy. You have the right to be loved. You have the right to be nurtured. And you have the right to live. And sometimes it can be easy to lose yourself while you are building, while you are climbing. It's easy to lose yourself in this work. But knowing that you are deserving to place yourself at the top, because when you are well, your business is well.
Candace, thank you so much for coming to So Ambitious.
Thank you for having me.